Okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for making the time to join this public meeting of the SBDC and discuss Warrant Article 8. I think Aaron is going to do a quick roll call before we get into the agenda. Okay, thank you, Aaron.
No problem. Okay. I'm just going to read it straight off of my screen here. Ann Myers.
Here, what are we saying here?
Yeah, here's
Yes.
fine. Ailish Gilligan,
Here.
David Gladstone,
Present.
Karen Flannery,
Here,
Chris Muddy.
you're
I
muted,
saw your.
Chris.
Yeah, you're muted.
Here.
John Van Scoyac,
Here.
and that should be 6 by my count. Okay, so that's a quorum, Ailish, if you want to
Okay.
get it kicked off.
Yeah, so let's just move right on the agenda to number 3, and that's the presentation on Warrant Article 8.
Okay, and I see a couple of the petitioners, Ira and Clint. Which one of you do you need me to let you share the screen? Clint, that's you? Okay. There we go. Let's see if that worked.
Yeah, good morning. I think I can see I'm a co-host. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm Clint Richmond. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 6, longtime town meeting member. And I'm a co-petitioner on Warrant Article 8 with Ira Krepchen, also a town meeting member. And thank you for agreeing to listen to our presentation. So I'm going to start sharing. And I don't know what kind of format you want. Do you want to ask questions during it, or you want to let me go and then ask questions at the end? Does anybody have a preference?
I think probably run right through your presentation and then we can have questions at the end, if that's okay with you.
Whatever you like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. So let's see. Yeah. Looks like everybody can see my slides. Is that correct?
This looks good.
Okay. Thank you. So there are 4 co-petitioners, 2 of which are not here today, Elisa and David. The objective of this warrant article is to provide the towns with a means to address lighting that is excessive in amount or brightness, such that it is creating a nuisance to neighbors through either glare or excessive light trespass. Just to orient ourselves, this is a light pollution map of Brookline. And the darker the color, the less light pollution there is. So you can see that South Brookline is a little less dark, that the Boston metro area is in this kind of white light, meaning that it's kind of, it would look from the sky, yes, it's pretty white. But it's important that this lighting warrant article only addresses nuisance, which can happen anywhere, you know, even from a single light fixture. How did we get here? Light trespass has always been a problem, but is much worse with LEDs. Virtually all new lighting and replacement bulbs are now LEDs. In fact, that's enshrined in state law. It's very hard to even buy or have an incandescent bulb shipped to your residence or business. LEDs are less expensive to operate, so there is a trend for more lighting in more places, operating more hours. And LED lighting, in particular, comes at a higher range of color temperatures than incandescent, with most being cooler or bluer white. And that's measured in the lighting world with what they call the color temperature, which is a Kelvin scale. And most incandescent lighting is like 2,700 to 3,000. So what's the history of lighting to date in Brookline? I'm proud to say that the town has been a leader in reducing light pollution and addressing this issue. In the fall of 2014, the town's streetlights became dark skies compliant. we were on the leading edge there. Again, I was in town meeting then and supported it at that time. And I should add that, as we'll see, that the streetlights are the largest source of lighting in town. So it's very good that we have this kind of awareness and program for dark skies compliant streetlights. However, very limited lighting regulations exist for private property. We have commercial signage, not necessarily lighting, that's in our zoning and general bylaws. There's the Harvard Street form-based zoning touches upon lighting rules. Some of the residential districts have zoning bylaws that state that basically you shouldn't have gratuitous lighting. It should be sort of functional lighting, but it's not very detailed. So that's one of the reasons the planning department introduced more restrictive zoning bylaw governing lighting in the fall of 2024. However, that bylaw did not pass for various technical reasons. It was referred back to the planning department and no further action has been taken. But the petitioners have been informing the planning department of our thoughts on this and have been developing since fall of 2024 this warrant article. So the solution that we proposed here is a general bylaw, not a zoning bylaw, to regulate lighting usage rather than just the installation, which is what zoning does. And it needs to include existing lighting, because you don't need a permit. You don't need a zoning permit or any kind of permit to add additional lighting to your property, to change your light bulbs, and nor should you have to. But this general bylaw allows you to as a neighbor, to have a recourse for lighting nuisance. And this bylaw is modeled. It's actually sort of a small section of a larger model bylaw developed by Dark Skies, Massachusetts. So the gist of this warrant article is that it provides the town with the means to address egregious lighting nuisances by prohibiting commercial and residential lighting that is excessive in amount or brightness, such that it creates a nuisance to neighbors, either through glare or excessive light trespass. And you can see those terms are defined below. Again, this is taken from the model bylaw. Light trespass is like any kind of physical trespass, but it involves lighting. Glare is really more about the angle and where the lighting is going, so that is the light shining on your yard? Is the light going into your bedroom? That's where glare comes in. This does not apply to street lighting or lighting on any property owned by the town, Commonwealth, or U.S. government. Commonwealth and U.S. government are not subject to our laws, but as I said earlier, the town is already a pioneer on lighting issues and is the most compliant of the three sectors. So there's municipal, commercial, and residential. So, and their lighting is highly specialized, very expensive, difficult to change. So it's another reason not to include them at this time. That's not to say that all lighting in town is perfect, but that's not the thrust of this warrant article. So how is the enforcement going to work for this? Because this is a nuisance bylaw, it's complaint driven. The complainant would have to provide specific details about the glare or excessive light trespass. So this could be as simple as calling up the building department or emailing the building department saying, hey, there's significant lighting shining into my child's bedroom. Could you help me out with that? And the determination of this would be made by the building commissioner, who will come out at night and with a meter in most cases, unless it's not physically possible, to measure the lighting and assess the glare. Is it really causing a nuisance? And there's, as you can see, there's some enforcement around how long you have to correct it and fines. We've got some feedback that that the warrant article is not specific enough about what is compliant and what is not. This is deliberate. We think that absolute limits could cause over enforcement, and it's important to allow the commission to exercise discretion in enforcement. We don't have any experience with this. We want to see how it works. The building department can develop regulation, as with other policy areas. For example, the health department develops trash regulation. It's not built into a bylaw. And if town meeting does not agree with the regulation, then town meeting can amend the bylaw. So we think it provides flexibility and evolution. There also could be developments in measurement technology, so that you don't want to freeze it at today's technology. You want to allow it to adapt as technology improves. Other feedback we've gotten is that commercial properties should perhaps be excluded. But it's important to recognize that commercial properties are very frequently, I think it's the most frequent area of non-compliance with lighting pollution best practices. However, because they're not primarily residential districts, we don't actually think there's going to be a source of many nuisance complaints within the commercial districts. But it's important, if you're a resident and you have nuisance, in your bedroom, for example, that you have an avenue for addressing that nuisance, regardless of its source. So we think it's fair to include both residential and commercial sources of light and light pollution and light nuisance. We also think it's important for the commercial properties, since they do go through a more rigorous permitting process, to provide the planning department with the ability to provide lighting guidance that will result in less light pollution. So this is kind of an educational aspect as well. And as I said, it's not should not be a surprise that our business districts, like Coolidge Corner or Washington Square, are the brightest areas in town, as shown by measurement. If you're interested, I can tell you how to do that. But and it's also important to note this is not a warrant article that is prescriptive, in that it doesn't say you must have dark skies compliant lighting on your property. That would be good. If that was true, we might not be needing to be bringing this warrant article. But all you have to do is address the source of the nuisance. So it doesn't mean that your color temperature has to be X, or that you can't, have any uplighting or things like that. But you just have to address your neighbor's concerns. So that might include increased shielding, changing the bulb, putting on a motion detector, or just agreeing not to use the light. You don't have to turn on the light. You can dim the light. You can put the light on a dimmer. So there, again, that's where the building commissioner and the lighting owner can work out a solution to address the neighbor's problem. It doesn't require any specific lighting solution. The other issue that's come up in discussion of this issue is more lighting is better. And here's an example of a photo, and this is from our friends at Dark Skies, showing that, again, this is the glare problem. Lighting can be blinding and can prevent people from seeing hazards. So you can see that there's if you look closely at this image, there's a man at the gate of the walkway here, and you can't see the man in the picture on the left, and you can see him when you cover up the lighting that's blinding you on the right. So I hope you see how, what kind of where we're coming from with this, and that communities across the state and the country are recognizing the negative effects of excessive lighting and are taking action. More than 50 cities and towns in Massachusetts have adopted outdoor lighting regulations, and that includes Brookline's existing one. It doesn't mean we've addressed all lighting, but we're in the vanguard as usual. And Brookline residents deserve to be free from the health and safety hazards caused by nuisance lighting. And warrant Article 8 will provide the town with a tool to respond to that issue. So that is my presentation, and I will stop sharing for now, although I don't know, I guess I can bring it back up if there's something you want me to go back to. And we can also send these slides to you for your review.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think now, Aaron, I'm going to ask any of the committee members if they have any questions to raise their hands so that we can ask petitioners any comments before we open it for a public comment. So, anyone have any questions?
Karen's hand is up.
Sorry, my screen is frozen, so.
Karen's hand is up.
Okay, Karen, go right ahead.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I just have a couple of questions. You referred often to light shining in your child's bedroom, etc. I'm just wondering who the complainant could be. Is it someone just walking around and seeing that people have very bright, doorway lights on, things like that. So does it have to be a neighbor, or can it be anyone being the complainant in the process? And the other question was, um, there's not, you said egregious and nuisance, but that's sort of not defined. Is that going to be the planning board that defines that?
Thank you for those questions, Karen. One, no, kind of drive-by complaints are not a part of this bylaw. It has to be someone with standing. This isn't a butter who's complaining. So it's not about pedestrians walking by and saying, "Hey, I saw a really bright light." The second question was, I'm sorry, what was the second question?
Well, defining egregious and
Oh,
nuisance.
no. As I said in the slide, we're intentionally not defining it, and that's based upon, I mean, obviously we don't have any experience with this personally, but the model bylaw from Dark Skies, Massachusetts, does not define absolute cutoffs. The planning, not the planning board, not the health department, although these departments could be consulted and perhaps should be consulted in any regulation development, would be by the building commissioner.
So it's the building commissioner would determine whether something was egregious or not.
Right. I believe that's the way most regulation is constructed. I don't know, maybe someone else on the call can answer it from a more of a legal standpoint for the town, but maybe it's the town administrator's designee. But I know the trash regulations were developed jointly by the health department and DPW, but they're published sort of on the health department's website, because that's who's the enforcement agent for trash, for example.
And then where does it state in there that the only people with standing are the abutters?
Well, it's not
Did I
direct
miss that?
abutter. It could be, 4 houses. You just have to have nuisance. You need to be able to demonstrate nuisance. So
Okay.
obviously, the closer you are, probably the more likely you are to be affected. But some lighting is directional.
Yep.
So if someone's got a spotlight, it could be coming in your window, but not your neighbor's window.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ailish, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like building commission is going to get very busy working at night. It sort of begs the question of how is he going to get his job done during the day? Light trespass makes it sound like an illegal activity. Having neighbors complain on neighbors is a potential divisive issue. Commercial districts all abut and are adjacent to residential areas. And we're surrounded by Boston, Jamaica Plain, Rossi, West Roxbury, Brighton, Alston, and downtown Boston. So now, Clint, I come to my questions. It begs the question of why doesn't the article address progressively ways to abate the light from the residential standpoint? Why can't they put in appropriate shades, appropriate drapes to take care of some of this so-called light pollution? Diminishing lighting also can create a safety and security issue. And my question is, of the 50 communities you cited, how many of them addressed the municipality versus the residential issue here?
I would have to get back to you on the last question. It sounds like you would suggest that we should include municipal in the mix, but we've met with the DPW commissioner, and we aren't willing to do that at this time, and she's not either. It's, as I said, it's a complicated problem. We don't think that, I mean, just as with any kind of nuisance activity, right? I mean, we really want to put lighting on the same level as noise. I don't think you want to say to someone who's suffering from a noise nuisance that they should get earplugs. The victim should not be the one who's responsible for mitigating the problem. You want to go back to the source. And, we haven't really talked about the environmental issues here. And again, like noise, light pollution has environmental impacts, so that it affects insects, it affects birds, it affects the nocturnal environment. There's a lot of benefits to reducing lighting. And as we had a slide that said, more is not necessarily better when it comes to lighting, particularly from an environmental standpoint, but also from a health standpoint. So that's really what the reason that this is how it's been written.
But Clint, the argument has been that we need to use, from a sustainability standpoint, we have to use high energy efficient lighting. And we've gone to that in the town where we're dealing with it's no longer incandescent, which, as you know, is not efficient. It's highly waste energy. So we've gone there, and now we're trying to go to the next level, which I think is going to be punitive on small business, is going to be punitive on the business community. And it sort of begs the question, what's going to happen, Clint, during the holiday times or during Halloween, where people want to put up lights, they want to put up decorations? Is that going to be restricted also?
Holiday lighting is not explicitly called out, but if it's causing a nuisance, it could be. But I don't know. My neighbors, I don't know, there's not a lot of holiday decorations, but I think it would be difficult for holiday lighting to be, causing the same level of glare or trespass. It's really about the amount of light. It's not that you can see, if you can see a light, that's not nuisance. But if the light is, like I said, coming into your bedroom, then it's a nuisance. I don't really think holiday lighting is going to be a source of nuisance. I'm pretty aware of lighting. I live in North Brookline. I'm always looking at lighting around town. I don't really see holiday lights as the problem. So I don't, and my co-petitioners, Ira can chime in here if he wants, but I don't think we have any holiday complaints. Again, there might be other reasons not to have holiday lighting, but that's not what this warrant article is about.
Right, but I would say that, yes, you're looking at it from the standpoint of North Brookline. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of South Brookline. And if you take a drive through here now, you can actually see all the different decorations, which I think are a great thing, for the community and the like. And this could be something that could be called out and restricted. So I have a problem with that as well. You should take a drive through or pedal through South Brookline if you can, to see what the story is, because there is a lot of holiday lighting that's done. And South Brookline's a much more residential community, has many more single family homes than, North Brookline, which has a heavy concentration of condominiums and apartments.
Two of our petitioners live in South Brookline. Ira can chime in on his neighborhood. But I want to address one thing about LED lightings and why, if it's, and how it's better and how it's not. LED lighting is very efficient, but I will tell you, in my house, I prefer warm lighting. I have very little LED lighting. I go out of my way to try and obtain incandescent lighting and halogen lighting. I know that sounds blasphemous, but LED lighting is also highly toxic. It's unregulated toxic waste. So I don't want people to get the impression that LED lighting is some sort of lighting nirvana. But again, that's not the subject of this warrant article, but I just want to give you that background for your own edification. Ira, do you want to chime in on South Brookline and holiday lighting?
Yes, the subject of holiday lighting came up yesterday also in one of our meetings. And of the 50 or roughly 50 communities that Clint referred to earlier, many of them actually mention holiday lighting as something that they want to allow. And it's typically in terms of months, so that you can have your Halloween lights, start with your Halloween lights and run all the way through Valentine's Day if you want in some communities. And it's something that can certainly be covered by rules and regulations, but it's not specifically mentioned in our warrant article. And as for South
Ira,
Brookline,
where are you in South Brookline?
I'm in Chestnut Hill.
So Baker School District?
Yeah.
All right, so you know what I'm talking about with regards to all the different Halloween lights and the holiday lights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, David. And I just see that there are members of the public with their hands raised, and I will get to those participants, but not until after all the committee members have made their comment first. So I'm going to move on to Ann Myers.
Thanks, Ailish. David covered a couple of the things that I was going to mention, but my first question was, what does the building commissioner think of this? Has he said anything about how he's going to do this? And also at the EDAB meeting, Elisa mentioned that basically this is complaint driven, that the building commission responds to complaints now on lights. And I asked how many of those complaints come from the commercial areas, and she didn't know. I'm just wondering whether any of you have found out the answer to that question. And the third thing is just this issue of residents in commercial areas. I live right in Coolidge Corner. I didn't move here because I thought it was going to be quiet or because I thought it was going to be dark or any of those other things. I chose to live here. And if people are moving onto Beacon Street and don't understand that there's a trolley that goes in front of their house however often it goes, that's their problem. I don't think we need to worry about people. People can get dark shades. That's what I have. I don't think people need to worry that we need to worry as a town about these issues in the commercial areas. So I guess I'm just curious about the building commissioner. What did he say, or what does he think about this? And how is he going to staff it?
I spoke to the building commissioner. Ira looks like he's going to chime in.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that the building commissioner has expressed concern about is he can respond to complaints now if he fudges things, because the authority he has now does not apply to the same conditions as we are calling out here. It applies to signage. It does not apply to general lighting.
So you're saying that he doesn't have that his problem is that he doesn't have the authority to do this, or he doesn't have the legal authority to do it? And have you asked him how he's going to get somebody to, when complaints come in, how he's going to manage that?
I think, yeah, he has some legal footing, and as you said, there are references to lighting within our existing bylaws. But you know, the four petitioners and other town meeting members who are supporting us, you know, we don't think there's going to be a floodgate. It's the same thing. We have the same issue with enforcement of restaurants and plastic bylaws. We have the same problem with leaf blowers and enforcement there. It's important to get these things on the books. I really don't think there's going to be a flood of complaints. But if there are, then you know, we just have to say that this is a problem like any other, and we'll address it as best we can. We might need to increase funding to staff it, but the building department has not said that yet. So again, if it becomes onerous and we have to say, hey, let's get rid of it. I mean, you know, if it's completely impractical, you know, the town meeting and the town has other options. But we're already on this path, you know, that we started in 2014. We just need to extend it because we've addressed, you know, the municipal street lighting problem, which was bad. I mean, I had, you know, the old Cobra heads and the sodium vapor lights were really bad. I had one shining in my building from 3 blocks away. So I mean, you know, we've made progress, and we want to, and Brookline is a community that wants to make progress and protect its residents. I have blackout shades in the room where my grandchildren come to visit, and it's not enough. And there's light coming in around the edges. It's and it's expensive. And furthermore, they're plastic. I don't like plastic shades. I have a lot of environmental issues I work on.
I have cloth ones.
Yeah, I know. Okay, then maybe you can find someone who can make them for me. But again, the victims shouldn't have to be the ones who have to solve the problem.
My only point, Clint, is that I don't think that people who move into our commercial areas or live here are victims. I think they made choices, as I did, to live in a commercial area for other reasons. I don't consider myself a victim of noise or light or any. I think that's the only point I'm trying to make.
People have different perceptions, and people have different tolerances. And as I said, there are medical sensitivities in some cases. I don't, you know, those really haven't been addressed before or mentioned in this discussion. You know, when we met with you before, this didn't come up, but you know, we're digging into this more. We're trying to respond to the comments that we're getting through the process.
Okay.
And I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So Clint, can you weigh in on what town council weighed in on with regards to enacting Article 8?
David,
And
David, can I interrupt you just for
Yeah.
a second? Just because that conversation will take a long time, and I don't
Okay.
think any of us are lawyers. Well, maybe somebody is, but I don't think the small business and EDAB, we did the same thing at EDAB. Our concern was not the legal issues. Other people can take care of the legal issues, and it just takes up a lot of time.
So noted.
If
Okay,
that's
no
okay
problem.
with you? Okay.
Yeah, so noted. Thank you.
Okay, I think Chris Muddy has his hand raised also. Chris?
Thanks, Alice. So I'm just curious, how many businesses have you and your co-petitioners reached out to in the process of developing this warrant article? Because I know it's gone through a number of iterations and you've reached this kind of conclusion that's going to town meeting. How many businesses have you reached out to? Do we understand the impact of potential compliance for businesses that are causing harm to their neighbors? And then can you point to any communities where this has been done? And if yes, what has been the impact on the business community in those communities?
I've not, I know I can't speak for all four of us because we've been working on this for a while. Ira's been doing this the longest, but the issue of lighting has been coming up for a long time in the planning process. And I know specifically, Chris, as a town meeting member, I'm often submitting public comment on lighting and signage applications. And because there's no basis for restricting the color temperature, for example, and I've given feedback to businesses, I mean, through, again, via the planning department, it's not having an impact. The default lighting temperature for many commercial signage is like 5,000 Kelvin. That's intensely bright white. We're talking like operating room level of lighting. And the businesses are not, haven't been educated or not as aware of some of these issues. Their lighting designers or their corporate standards, if they're a chain store, are X, Y, and Z, and they're appropriate for strip malls and that kind of thing. It doesn't really fit in with the kind of the more residential image that Brookline has. It's kind of a cozier, we're not trying to be Times Square in Coolidge Corner. That we want it to be kind of a warm and welcoming community. And people have different perceptions of lighting, and I think it's important to recognize there's a diversity of opinions. Some people say, oh, lighting adds vibrancy, but other people might say, no, it makes it seem like it's too much. It's like Times Square. So while I haven't reached out, directly to businesses, I've been participating in the planning process for many years, and what's going on now is inadequate. And this is why we need this kind of regulation. And we're not regulating all lighting. Again, it has to be trespass. And as I stated, amongst the four of us, we don't see, a lot of commercial violations. So we don't think it's going to have the kind of, draconian impact that some people have suggested could occur. But I think that once people understand, I think they understand Brookline's values, and they want to say, oh, I didn't know. And that, and they'll work it out with the building department on how to address the problem. But I'm sorry, to answer the other part of your question. So Northampton has been a pioneer on this, and they have the full dark skies bylaw that I should provide. I'll provide the link to you to the full model that we're basing this on. So they've already done that, and Northampton has a thriving business district. It's the sort of shopping area for many communities in Western Mass, and with a busy downtown. So I think that we should try and flip the script here and say that as part of our environmental awareness, we're going to reduce lighting where it's not needed, and that we don't want it to turn into kind of like, I mean, some signs I think that businesses have are more like billboards. We have a billboard bylaw, but that doesn't seem to be translating into lighting. So I think that we could do more to make it more kind of human scale, pedestrian oriented signage rather than drive-by, signage that you find in malls.
Just for the record, David Lushinsky is not here, but I know that he would mention this. The Coolidge Corner Merchants Association every single year has a conversation about how to get more lighting into Coolidge Corner, particularly during the holiday season. If you drive through any of the neighboring commercial areas in any of our neighboring towns and out in the suburbs. The commercial areas are much more attractive from a marketing point of view than Coolidge Corner is. And that's just been, that's just so you know that. They would argue that less lighting during the holidays is not a good thing in terms of competing with the neighboring commercial areas. And he could say it better than I, but I'm just.
Actually, I want to correct the record for Chris in particular, because I forgot that I actually did reach out to David Lashinsky, who lives just four doors down to me. And we did a nighttime tour of Coolidge Corner. So I'm sorry, I want to correct myself. I did reach out directly to the business community, and I did reach out with him, and he's a good friend of mine.
I wouldn't say David represents the business community, but
in any case,
David is one person. Yeah,
he's one person. He's a business owner. In fact, we went to his business, and he had 2 interior spotlights that were shining onto the sidewalk and causing quite a bit of glare. And he says, "You know what? I wasn't aware of that, and I'm going to see if I can point them back inside so that they're lighting my goods and not the street and not, blinding pedestrians. They're quite strong. People don't realize when you get a new bulb and it's LED, it's like 10 times brighter and 10 times wider. You don't even know it because you just drop it in and don't think about it. So, I mean, that's a case where you had existing lighting and a new bulb, and we're seeing that all over Brookline. I have reached out to him. I know him. He's a business owner, and he's in my neighborhood. I shop in Coolidge Corner, but we want to make sure we're serving our residents and appropriately, so that it's not, the residents don't have to be the ones that bear the brunt of excessive lighting in order to somehow make the business community successful. I don't think that's a philosophy we all agree on. I see you're shaking your head.
With no business community, you would want to live there.
Well, I can also say that I just came back from.
I'm sorry. I mean, this is, we're not going to.
Going off track. Actually, I'd like to ask a couple of questions if everybody else has asked the question. Is that okay with everyone? I just like to use myself as an example. I have a restaurant in Washington Square, the Public House. I have an outdoor structure. I use patio lighting. I want to know the exact limitations this will place on me as outdoor structure and lighting goes. The time that it will have to be off, the level of lighting I'm going to be allowed. I just ask that because I know for myself that there are minimums of light that have to be allowed for insurance purposes, right? So my insurance company will say, hey, this is too dark. This is not safe. There are people on the sidewalk outside if they fall. I just want to know, any research been done into the requirements of insurance that insurance demands on business owners with regard to lighting?
I don't know, I'm not expert on that area, but the responsibility for things like sidewalk lighting is DPW. And are you saying that the DPW is not providing adequate lighting for safety purposes?
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, our sidewalk or our outdoor structures, they're in our parking spots right directly outside the restaurant. I think there's several of them around town, and we add lighting to that. Obviously, we need an insurance policy to cover that area. And so insurance companies will come and measure the lighting in those areas. And I'm just wondering, has any conversations happened or any discussions with what would be acceptable as a threshold?
Well, I'd like to, I'm not familiar with the insurance requirements around lighting for outdoor dining. If you could send me some of those reports, I'd be interested to see what they say so I can better respond to this question. But I guess the question is, have you had complaints about lighting? Or in the same way that, we were asked, have we reached out to businesses? Are businesses reaching out to their neighbors, say, hey, we're going to be putting in an outdoor patio. How can we make this?
Of course, it's part of the licensing.
Our upstairs neighbors. I've been to your restaurant. It's a different, I'm trying to remember how many residences are in your immediate area, but there are residences above David Lashinsky's store. Again, I don't think he's a problem, and but in general, he has some non-compliant lighting, but that doesn't mean that he's subject to this bylaw. When I say non-compliant with dark skies.
Right.
But I assume that if a resident came to you and said, "Hey, your lights were on the other night or something. Is your timer working, or you make sure your manager is turning it off?" I don't know. I'm sure you'd be very responsive if a resident came to you and said, "I'd like to turn on my light." So, and in a way, that's kind of what this warrant article is inviting, more of those kinds of discussions.
No,
And
I understand. And we do, by the way, on our
mediator.
application process, have to discuss this with all our abutting neighbors. I mean, in my particular stretch of Beacon Street, there are no residents around me. So there are business neighbors that I have to discuss and have them agree to allow me to build this structure. So obviously I'm not putting something up without getting approval from my neighbors. But the issue for me here is really the clarity in the rules and regulation, or not even in this bylaw, like excessive glare and trespass just become very subjective to me. And so it's a very uncertain approach for businesses. They really some sort of measurable criteria. And I know you're trying to avoid that, but for us, it's very hard for us to really work out what is right and what is wrong in this and how we would move forward. And I'll also say that I'm sure there are examples of landmarks such as Coolidge Corner Theatre sign. Is that something that would not be compliant? Signs like my neighbors in Livite that have spotlights that shine up on their, I think that's not compliant, if I'm right. Gimbel's Liquors, which that light has been there for a long time. I spoke to them and asked how much of a cost would it be for them to reduce their illumination or change light bulbs. And basically he said it was thousands of dollars every time something went wrong with the sign. So there is a financial burden being placed on commercial businesses, which I feel like Anne, I live in Washington Square. I run my business in Washington Square. I have an expectation of what my life will be by choosing to live in Washington Square. And I love it, by the way. I love it. I have a great community. And so I'm not complaining about the train or the lights because I understand there's a consequences to the decision I made to live here. And that to me is important for us to recognize. And I honestly think too that this burdens unnecessarily businesses that are struggling right now. We are in a very tumultuous time operating a business in Brookline. I know people say that all the time, but believe me when I say all of us are struggling. And I feel that this is too ambiguous. It's another burden on the town's building department. It's a burden on business owners. And I really feel like moving forward that we should model other towns that have excluded commercial zones from this bylaw. And I think that for me is where my opinion lies. I really appreciate all the hard work and effort that has been put into this. But I do think we need to move forward excluding commercial zones. And that's it for me. Thank you. Any other committee members?
English, it's David. I have to add one thing. I had conversations with David Lashinsky, and he made me aware of taking a tour with Clint. And even after the tour, he had reservations about the impact of this proposed article. And I just need to add that in because this is a conversation I had with him post-tour with Clint. So I just want to add that.
Okay, thank you. So Aaron, can we open this up to public comment?
Yep.
Okay. All right, then Richard Nagel has his hand raised.
Yep.
Okay, Richard Nagel.
We're having trouble, Richard, I think.
There's something wrong with your audio, Richard.
It's okay if you want to turn off your video too. I know that helps sometimes with the audio clarity.
I'm afraid it's not helping. Richard, do you want to type your question into the chat?
Yeah, it's still not working.
We'll hold on a minute, Aaron, and see.
Also friends with Sharon.
We can't understand you, Richard.
I'm sorry, Richard, we
What's
can't
that?
hear you at all.
I'll do.
Oh, did he get off? He's getting back on.
Yeah, I think he'll try to reconnect.
Does anybody else from the public have anything?
I don't see anyone else with their hand raised. Any other committee members have any comments while we wait? No. Okay.
There's
Oh,
Karen.
Karen.
Karen just raised her
Karen has
hand.
her hand raised. Okay, Karen.
Sure. Hi, thank you. Just as another thing in reviewing the regulation, I understand that it's up to the building commissioner to determine who gets fined, et cetera, but the fining system, like I understand trying to, use a fine to get somebody to do something or move something forward, but it starts adding up very quickly. And as a small business, I own 2 small businesses in Brookline Village. If we start getting fined on a daily basis while we're trying to resolve something, that just adds up tremendously. And as a small business owner, we are seeing huge changes. I agree completely with Ailish about businesses are struggling. We've lost 2 businesses in the village recently. So, what might not seem like a lot of money to some people, to a small business, if it starts adding up, um, I just find that the daily addition of a fine is a lot.
I think that's good feedback. So I think that's something we're going to take back and adjust the fine schedule. And I also I think that 14 days is not sufficient, especially for a business. So I will take that. We will take that back to our co-petitioners, and I think we can address that in a way that's much more sympathetic.
Mhm. Thank you.
I don't think Richard Nagel rejoined Aaron, did he?
Not yet. No.
Okay, we'll wait a minute. Also, I just want to say that business neighborhoods operate very differently from residential neighborhoods. We have different needs, and I think that honestly that the bylaw cannot treat all neighborhoods as the same. Really, there are different needs in every neighborhood in Brookline, and in Coolidge Corner, it's a happening evening hood. A lot of the businesses try to out their lighting and facade lighting, and I feel like there's fierce competition out there, and putting limitations on how they can advertise is difficult. So, okay.
And just to add to what you're saying, that's one reason why we held back on a more comprehensive dark sky legislation at this point, because there are these differences in not only commercial versus residential, but different kinds of commercial districts. So that will require a lot of investigation and analysis to proceed in that direction.
And do you have any access to any studies in other neighborhoods where this have been implemented, in areas where Northampton, I know you mentioned, are there any other areas where the town had not included commercial areas, and how impactful the bylaw was by doing that? Do we have any information on that at all?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I guess we could go back to the list. We can consult with our, we've been in consultation with the Dark Skies Massachusetts, and we can ask them more about that specifically. But I guess the other thing too is that I feel like our commercial districts are going to get increasing residential with the emphasis on transit-oriented development and transit-oriented lifestyle. That I think we need to be more sensitive. That it's really a lot of our neighborhoods are mixed. They're not one or the other. I mean, I think Ailish, it sounds like your business probably won't be effective because you don't have any residences, but maybe I'm trying to think of the liquor store. I think there might be residences across the street or sort of diagonal,
Yes,
something like that, but I don't know if they
you're
face that.
right.
I think they face more toward Beacon, but so what we're trying to do though is encourage everyone, businesses, the town, and residences to buy dark skies compliant lighting. And if you have dark skies compliant lighting, there's a system called BUGS, B-U-G-S, and it's an acronym for like background, up, glare, and I forget what the S is. But there's kind of multiple dimensions of lighting. And if you purchase compliant lighting, you can avoid any risk to these impacts on your neighbors. And also so that, again, it doesn't become sort of a war that, one business is much lighter than the business next to it, that everybody's kind of, working within their own property. And that's I think is a dimension of just being neighborly. So and that, you're recognizing that artificial light, large amounts of artificial light can be harmful. So, you could proactively start to say, could I arrange my lighting on my outdoor dining area to be more compliant? But not because you have to, but because you want to, and you realize that, it has other benefits. So I don't think you'll be forced to do anything, frankly, but
I know that, and I appreciate we should all be more neighborly. If we were all more neighborly, maybe we wouldn't have this discussion.
Exactly.
I do know my neighbors, a lot of them have lighting that will not be compliant. I do know that, and I know a lot of them are struggling, and that I think it's important to consider that. And I think also we should really have more community outreach within each neighborhood. And I think Dave Lashinsky is great. He's such a champion for Coolidge Corner, but there are so many other neighborhoods that would be impacted. It would be good to do a case study of a business that has to make changes and just like what will be actually entail and what will be the financial burden. If you have a landlord who said, I'm sorry, you're responsible for all lighting, and suddenly you have 4 or 5 lights that are projected upwards, that will be a huge cost. I know myself, I just put dimmers on a particular light inside my restaurant, and it was a $2,500 bill for dimmers. So it wasn't like it's an easy fix. It really isn't. Electrical work is so complex and costly and difficult to find people to do. So you kind of have to, you can't shop around as much as you would hope to. It's really when you can find people to do the job. So I'm not sure we consider all of that in this bylaw, to be honest.
Can I suggest that we close the public hearing? If he comes back on, we can reopen it, but we should probably.
Sure.
And I was just going to ask Clint whether you've thought of making this prospective instead of making it effective for existing either businesses or I understand the residents part, but I don't disagree with you in terms of new growth in the commercial areas, but those are going to go through the planning process and design review. And on Harvard Street, there was a lot of thinking about the light regs along Harvard Street in the MBTA Communities Act rezoning. It's going back into old buildings that have been like that for a long time. That is one of the issues here in terms of the commercial areas, I think. So I don't know if you've thought about that or not, and whether you could even change it at this point. I don't know if that's in terms of.
No, it's quite deliberate that we want the existing because think about when you check into a hotel in a city, you want to choose the high floors, right? Because they're quieter and darker. It's the same thing with residents. It's kind of a natural human thing to want to avoid these annoyances if possible. And we think of this as kind of a first step. I mean, we're just addressing the nuisance lighting, which is a tiny percentage of all the lighting. We're not talking about dark skies and seeing the constellations. It's none of that. This is a first step to address direct nuisance lighting. It has to be so annoying that someone's going to call up the building department and complain. It's not about making all lighting compliant. We hope that this will be part of an education process that, as I was suggesting, that people will start to say, maybe I should think harder when I'm putting in new lighting to make it dark skies compliant. That's a wish. That's an aspiration. It has nothing to do with the proposed bylaw. So
it's not an aspiration when it's going to cost people a lot of money. That's the problem.
That's why you want to do it during the permitting and installation process.
I agree, but we have a lot of businesses who've been here for and buildings who've been here, which have been here for many, many years, and it's not an easy fix. That's the only point I'm making. But we should probably move on.
Okay. There are other answer questions from anyone, and we now have no more public comment, right? So we should discuss a possible vote. Correct, Anne?
Did you say Anne or Aaron?
Anne and Aaron. So I just would like to get a sense of where people, what people would like to do as far as a language for a vote. Where people, what people agree on, and what kind of motion we would bring forward to vote.
Do you want to talk about the options?
Yes. So we could hear a motion to support the town meeting warrant Article 8 as it currently is written. We could take a vote to, to work or to exclude commercial areas from the proposed warrant article and have it added in. Or in addition, we could hear a motion to prepare a memo reflecting today's discussion and the committee's position to be sent to the town for further consideration.
I think that last one, Ailish, we'll have to do either way. No matter what
Yes.
we vote on today, we'll want the board, the commissions. Oh, I've gotten all my boards and commissions mixed up. The committee's approval for you and Ann to work with me so that we can send a memo to town meeting members on what was decided today. So I think really the two that you just suggested.
Okay.
Oh, and then there's also, you could vote on no action. Then there's that
no
that
action.
option as well. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, can I just go back to the second voting recommendation could be that the Small Business Development Committee recommends to town meeting excludes proposed by EDAB regarding all commercial areas. That too, we could vote on that also. Well, that's a better way to say, actually.
just so everybody knows, I don't know whether it was in here. What EDAB did was suggest eliminating 4 different zoning. I mean, we didn't just say commercial areas. We said zoning categories plus Harvard Street, because it was initially, there is a lighting standard in the new Harvard Street rezoning that was passed last year. So that's what EDAB did.
Okay, so maybe I will just start asking questions and see if I hear motions, or has anyone anything to add? Aaron, is that the best way forward?
Yeah, whichever one you decide to put forward, and then if there's a second on the motion,
Okay.
we can start voting, and I can call out the roll call again.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm a little confused. So we'd be voting on a motion to support, a motion or no action, or the other one, would it be to go along with EDAB's?
Yes.
Okay.
Recommendations.
EDAB's recommendation.
Basically exclude at EDAB, we wouldn't have even heard this if it was just in the residential areas, because what we focus on is commercial areas. So we just wanted the commercial areas excluded, and we didn't have a position one way or the other on the residential.
Okay.
If we had had a position on the residential and didn't like it, we would have done no action, but that was not our concern.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, do I hear a motion that the Small Business Development Committee recommends to town meeting the exclusion previously proposed by EDAB regarding all commercial areas excluding G, L, and O and I zoning districts, as well as the article Harvard Street form-based zone standards?
I'll second that. I mean, I think that was the motion.
Yeah.
It's a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll-
Okay.
I'll call out the roll call if you want, Ailish. Okay, Ailish Gilligan,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
John Van Scoyac,
I'm going to be taking part in the select board's vote on this, so I'm going to abstain.
okay, David Gladstone,
Yes.
Deb Thompson,
Yes.
Chris Muddy,
Yes.
and Leroy Watkins.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay. I think also we need to hear a motion for our memo, Aaron.
yes.
So do I hear a motion that the chair and the vice chair will work with staff to prepare a memo reflecting today's discussion and the committee's positions to be sent to town meeting for further consideration?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All right, roll call time again. Let's see. Ailish Gilligan,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
David Gladstone,
Yes.
Deb Thompson,
Yes.
Chris Muddy,
Yes.
and Leroy Watkins.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we can move on with any other business that we might have.
Guys, if I had jumped off, I had something that I had to do at 10. Am I messing up the
No,
no,
no.
No,
okay.
we're all done with voting, Deb. You're all
Okay,
good.
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay. All right,
And-
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
The only other business that I have to share with everybody is we will be having our normally scheduled SBDC meeting on Tuesday, October 21st. We've got a couple things on the agenda already, but if you would like any other topics, as always, please feel free to email me and we can get those on the agenda. But I just wanted to put that reminder out there that we had already had our October meeting scheduled for Tuesday, October 21st. We had to bump it back because I think there's another Jewish holiday coming up next week. And so just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron.
No problem.
Okay, I think we can conclude this public hearing.
Ailish, can I just say Oktoberfest is Thursday at the Teen
Okay,
Center now,
great.
and not at the Courtyard Marriott. So if you are looking for a networking event this coming week, Thursday at the Teen Center for Oktoberfest from 5 to 8.
5 to 8, Chris?
Yep.
Okay, and are there tickets to be?
Yeah, on our website.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Giving us the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, thank you, Clint, for your
Thank you.
information.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Thank you.
And Ira as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll let everyone go then. Thank you.
Bye.
Yes.
Take care.